Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. In this video, we're going to talk about a phenomenon that every expat will experience when they move abroad. Some refer to it as the gringo tax or the gringo gouge, which is just foreigner overpricing, also known as gringoed. It happens in all countries and to all foreigners that have lived in or come from Western countries. You can get overpriced by $1 or thousands of dollars depending on what it is you're buying and how the transaction comes about. For us personally, we get gringo just for being an American. Really, it's discrimination. That's the reality of it. Everywhere we've lived or traveled to abroad, we've been discriminated against for being from the USA. Let's get something out of the way right now. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, it's because you are from America. It's literally because you are a foreigner and they know that usually they can and will get away with it. We have helped numerous expats get locally priced rentals in Cuenca, Ecuador, as you know. This is how we know it is not just the color of your skin, but where you are from. One time, we assisted an African-American woman and her daughter. They just moved to Cuenca, and after a few days we invited her and her daughter over for dinner, and she told us that she was gringoed at the Mercado in Cuenca, Ecuador, and she knew Spanish. We also helped an Ecuadorian repatriate back to Cuenca, Ecuador, assisting her in procuring a locally priced rental. She told us she was gringoed because she has an American accent when she spoke Spanish. A couple of the vendors asked her, "Where are you from?" And she said, "Well, I was born in Cuenca, but my parents took us to the United States when I was a child, and now I'm back home to live." She went on to tell us that even Ecuadorians get gringoed by the Ecuadorians if they've been living in the United States. She was gringoed by numerous vendors in the Mercado, and she looked just like them. They instantly get money signs in their eyes when they realize you're an American. And they will ask you, "Where are you from?" It's the favorite phrase of those who usually want to gringo gouge the heck out of you. Sometimes Frank would teasingly say, "I'm from my mother's womb," and everyone would laugh, but then they'd ask again, "No, seriously, where are you from?" In Latin America, it's called the gringo tax or gouge. In Europe, it's called the foreigner tax. In Asia, it's called the farang tax. Bottom line, it's overpricing the foreigner, and it happens everywhere you go abroad. No country is immune. To the newcomers, they don't realize they're getting overpriced, and so they just pay it. Souvenir buying can be really treacherous because there's no price on anything. Frank learned to say without an accent, "How much is this?" perfectly, thinking he'll get the local price. But no, somehow they knew we weren't from there. If you want something really bad at these shops and stores where there are no prices, you need to have a bilingual go with you. We would have our daughter-in-law shop for big things for us like mattresses and appliances because many times she could bargain down a lower price than the listed price. But you can't be there when she's doing it. You have to be waiting outside or around the corner so they don't see she's bargaining for the foreigners. They know all the tricks. We started talking about this phenomenon early on when it kept happening to us over and over again. Just another reason to learn the language as quickly as possible. Once you learn the language, you can negotiate or just walk away if you know the price isn't right. I have a big whopper from Mexico to tell you about. Sometimes the gringo tax is highly unethical, like keeping someone from having clean drinking water delivered to you. This is a true story. Let me give you a little background first. In Mexico, we lived in a middle-class gated community of only Mexican residents. We were the only foreigners in the whole complex. We liked that and would do it all over again because we had great neighbors. It's safer living in a middle-class local neighborhood than the gringo neighborhoods. Anyway, one day I noticed how our neighbors would often get clean water delivered to them. They would fill up their tinacos, which are the big black or gray containers that sit on top of the roof. One day I went outside when the water company was filling up some of the tinacos in the neighborhood, and I asked the price. Now understand, I already asked my neighbors what they pay for it, so I knew the price to be $10 to fill the standard size tinaco. When I asked the water company the price, they quoted me $40, and they only last a few days depending on how many people are in your household. So get this, I'd be paying many times what the locals pay for the same clean water because I'm a foreigner. I can't afford hundreds of dollars a month water bill in Mexico. What about you? I didn't move to Latin America for this. I'm in the U.S. and my water bill is 1/3 of what it would have been in Mexico if I'd gone along and paid what they wanted. I asked our landlady if she would negotiate the price for us, and she said she wouldn't do it. Call it stubbornness or what, but yes, foreigners will absolutely get price gouged abroad.
The next lie is that you can drink the water. What I see is triple 100%, 300% price gouging on water is what I get here as a foreigner. So, as much as I tried to avoid it, that's unfortunately, with something like water that is a survival need people need in order to live. When you do price gouging on something, that's just a really despicable thing to do.
Poisoned water is a very good reason to leave a country, and is why I had to leave Mexico. In Ecuador, I was getting gringoed left and right at the mercado. That's when I realized that I would need to develop a relationship with certain vendors at the mercado, letting them know I'll pay the local price but buy more produce from them. Because we're a family of 5 and we eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables anyway, I would buy in bulk and give them more money at the time of the sale. Instead of $1, they'd get $5 because I would buy more. And I always went to the same vendors in the mercado. They treated me right.
I was walking on the street and there was some sort of a cabana with fruits and vegetables being sold. And so I noticed there were some papayas, and I was looking for papayas today. So I went over there, walked over there, and I noticed that the seller had his back to me. Now this is very important. This is the key. I've had many situations where the sellers had their back to me and they didn't get to see me before quoting the price. This is very important. So this is how I do it. I take advantage of that situation by using my very best Spanish. Now if you're thinking, hey, I don't know Spanish, this isn't going to help me. Here's what I'm suggesting. All you really need to know is just a few words. It's just a phrase or two. In this case, it was cuánto vale la, which just means how much is the, and then you just substitute whatever you're asking about, like cuánto vale la papaya, cuánto vale la banana, cuánto vale el avocado. So the key here is to say it very fast so as to sound kind of like a local that doesn't have a gringo accent. Okay, so here's what happened. So I approached the cabana, and once I realized that the seller had his back to me, I immediately said, ¿Cuánto vale la papaya? ¿Cuánto vale la papaya? Now here's what happens. When you do that, they will hear the question, they will start thinking about the price, but they haven't seen you. Whereas in your average situation, first they see you, then they start thinking about the price, and then when you ask, they've got a little bit of an advantage on you. So I had the advantage on him. So I said, ¿Cuánto vale la papaya? And he hadn't seen me yet. So as he's turning, he's already telling me the price. So he said 70 cents. And when he said 70 cents, that made sense. Why? Because I already know by going to the store. And by the way, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not trying to help you save 30 cents here. I'm saying how I get to the bottom of any price on anything from vendors. It could be clothing, it could be stereos, it doesn't matter what it is. And there's other ways to know. You can hire bilinguals and all that, but that always costs so much money to do. And you really don't. Personally, my opinion is that I really don't want to be dependent. So all you gotta do is just repeat the phrase over and over and over really fast until you don't sound like you have an accent. And then take advantage. When you see a seller's got his back, boom, you ask.
Taking taxis is a notorious gringo gouge. Be careful with taxi fares. Not all fares are considered equal, no pun intended. When taking a taxi in Cuenca, Ecuador, or anywhere really, do not just hop in and tell them where you're going. Instead, go to the window and tell him the address of where you're going and then ask what the price will be. We already knew the price to be between $2 to $4, to take you anywhere in Cuenca. If it was over that, we'd get a different taxi. There were no meters at that time, so it was really easy for them to just price gouge the foreigners. In Italy, when we first went to the Mercado, they tried to gouge me, but I would negotiate with them, and if they wouldn't give me the local price, I'd go to another vendor. In tourist spots in Europe, the foreign tax is right out in the open, such as how they are now taxing the tourists and foreigners the nightly tax to their hotel bill, or the tourist tax to enter a touristy part of the city. All of this is a tax because, hey, tourists can afford it, right? The upfront gringo tax you won't be able to negotiate. You're stuck paying it. Many times the activities and tours have a 100% price gouge to the foreigner or tourist. This works through the gringo tours, gringo tourism, and above all, the real estate agents. They hike on a huge 100% tax rate or more on the rentals that are geared to the foreigner. The other way they tax the gringo is through making the expats pay upfront 3 deposits. Really, all they should get is the first month's and the last month's rent, at the most. Anything else is gringo gouging the foreigner. We also know that the real estate agents keep one of the deposits for themselves, maybe even 2 deposits depending on how greedy they are. So here's a tip for you. Tell the agent that you're not interested in paying 3 deposits. We will go elsewhere if we can't give up one of those deposits today. Be nice about it, but let them know there are other rentals you're looking at. Usually they will give in because at this point they're at the contract stage and they don't want to have to start all over again and find a new client for their rental, and so they will give up a deposit. As you can see, there are ways to overcome being gouged. They work because we've used them over and over again. You just have to let them know, I'm a resident, not a tourist, and I'm not willing to be overpriced. I live here now and want to pay the local rate. Thank you. Be respectful but stern about the way you feel. And that's it. That's what we have for you today. Take care and bye-bye.